Sony's press conference wasn't bad, but for the past couple years they've won E3, and I don't know if I can say that they won E3 this year.
Miles!
They've won E3! Hello everyone, it's me, Aaron, Professor ThorgE, and welcome to part 2 of our look at E3 2017, and today we are taking a look at the Sony press conference. And as I said in that opening joke, yeah, for the past couple years, Sony has been on a streak. Sony's press conference for the past couple years has been jaw-dropping. It's been stunning. It's been mind-blowing. This year, I'm recording this right before the Nintendo press conference starts, so they could still absolutely blow me away. This could actually be Nintendo's year for the first time in a long time. This could be Nintendo's year because, you know, I talked about Xbox's problems yesterday. I'll get into the other press conferences later, but so far, none of them have really impressed me. I was kind of waiting for the Sony one, and the Sony one, if this had been their press conference last year, I would have been blown away. I would have been running around the house screaming about how amazing everything looked. But it kind of was their press conference last year. So many of the big, giant things that they showed off here today was exactly what we saw last year. And don't get me wrong, every single thing that they showed us was so impressive. Every single thing that they showed us would blow me away if I did not know it already existed, but I kind of already knew it existed, and a lot of people were super salty because they had heard rumors about things that were going to be announced, or they knew about other games that were upcoming that they were looking forward to learning more about because all they had gotten so far were just tiny little teasers, and they wanted to see an actual trailer this year, and they didn't get it. So I think a lot of people are being extra harsh on the Sony press conference simply because, well, they didn't have Bloodborne 2. And where's more stuff about The Last of Us 2? Where's all that stuff? Yeah, I can understand that you wanted stuff, but it's not like we didn't see some really damn cool stuff in this. It's just damn cool stuff that we've already seen. For an example of what I'm talking about, I think the biggest applause that I heard during this entire press conference was for the announced Horizon Zero Dawn expansion, simply because that game is super loved, people are really digging it, so they were not expecting at all to get an expansion this early on, so that was indeed a big surprise to them. Don't get me wrong, I do believe that there are several other surprises that came during this press conference, but, you know, they do in some way connect back to stuff that we have already seen before in one way or another. In fact, I'll go ahead and let you guys know right now, the new Uncharted game and the Days Gone zombie game, I'm just gonna skip those right now because even though I love Uncharted, and Days Gone looks pretty darn good, yeah, it's just more trailers. That's all they were. I didn't really get anything that new. I mean, yeah, this is the first time that we got an Uncharted trailer that actually showed off these two protagonists because the last trailer was kind of a teaser and it kind of hid them, and this one actually kind of showed them going off on adventures. But again, I knew this game already existed and I figured it would look kind of like this because it's Uncharted. So there we go. And I will say for Days Gone, hey man, zombie bears. That's pretty cool. Although that Metro game yesterday also showed me some zombie bears and they look kind of better in that game. I never thought I would ever get to that point in which I look at zombie bears and just think, seen it. But let's get into what to me was the first big surprise of this whole thing. The trailer for the new Monster Hunters game came up, and when it started, I looked at it and went, wow, whoever's making this game really wants to rip off Monster Hunter. But it's definitely not Monster Hunter, because Nintendo has that on lock. Nintendo realizes that is a console seller. That is something that by having it on their systems will keep Nintendo alive. There's no way that they're going to ever let anyone else touch that. Even if it's a franchise owned by someone other than Nintendo. Even if it's a Capcom franchise, Nintendo will do whatever they can to keep Capcom from going to someone else. Sure, that game would look amazing on the PlayStation 4, but there is no way that Nintendo is going to let it happen. And I was talking this smack all throughout that trailer. But then when he actually got into the fight with the giant T-Rex creature, I was like, okay, so the design of this world looks exactly like Monster Hunter. And the combat looks exactly like Monster Hunter. Either I'm wrong and this actually is Monster Hunter, or oh my god, whoever's making this is totally just ripping off Monster Hunter. And then he comes up, says the title there. Seriously, Nintendo, how did you let this happen? How did you let another system out there come in and sweep up one of the major selling points for all your consoles? Now, I'll be honest with you, the only Monster Hunter game I've ever played was the one for the 3DS, and the 3DS ain't exactly designed to show off the giant world of Monster Hunter. It was good, I liked it, but I didn't really love it like everybody else. And also, you know, if you have that new 3DS, you have to change the camera by using that little nub thing. The controls on that were just so weird and clunky, but I did enjoy the game enough to go, you know what? If this ever came out on a home console, I'd be intrigued. Oh my god, this game looks gorgeous. I am blown away by the idea of what this game can do now that it's on the PlayStation 4. Yeah, man, I'm sorry, Nintendo. You needed to hold on to this, but I'm gonna jump ship and go over to the PlayStation because I really want to check out what they can do with Monster Hunter. Next up, another huge surprise during this, but again, a surprise that kind of echoes back to an earlier game. Shadow of the Colossus is coming back, and it's fully remastered. I don't mean it's an HD re-release as in they just expanded the size a little bit to make up for your larger TV. No, we've already gotten that. This is actually fully 100% from the ground up remastered to take full advantage of modern day graphics. If there is any game out there that should be fully updated to take advantage of modern day graphics, it's Shadow of the Colossus. That game looked gorgeous when it originally came out, but that was a long time ago. And those colossi, I think that's the correct term, those colossi, they need to be jaw-dropping. And they were at the time, but I went back when they re-released it on the PlayStation 4, when they did the HD re-release, and I played it, I was like, yeah, this is good. I've seen cooler stuff now. My expectation level has raised since this originally came out. And watching this with those new stunning graphics, listen, even if I've played the game before, even if I know everything that happens, even if it's still going to have the same weird, vague ending that doesn't exactly make me feel good about everything that I had just went through, seriously, what happened there at the end? Even if all that is still true, I will gladly play this game again, because if they have updated all the graphics that much, again, this game will feel as epic as it should be. I mean, just watching you running up that giant Colossus's sword, I don't know words. I'm sorry. Just watching you run up that giant sword in new graphics, it captured that awe that I had the first time I played that game. Next up, we gotta look at the new Call of Duty game, and moving on. I'm sorry, I just don't care about Call of Duty. I don't even care what time period you set it in. You want to go into the future? Fine. You want to go back to World War II? Fine. It makes no difference to me. Unless you're a first-person shooter, it's got a dude on roller skates who boosts your healing power and speed with the power of music. I don't care about your first-person shooter. Next, they decided to show off some PlayStation VR exclusives, and I'll admit, I own a PlayStation VR. I'm actually pretty impressed with what it can do. I do enjoy it. However, at the moment, there isn't a whole lot of really impressive stuff on there. Resident Evil 7 is a lot of fun on it, but, you know, I have been waiting to see, is this going to be one of those things that PlayStation keeps working on, or is it kind of going to be like the Kinect, in which they go, yeah, you know, it's hard for people to make games for it, so we're just gonna scrap the whole thing. So I was really excited to see they are not scrapping the whole thing. They're actually doubling down on this with a ton of exclusives. I actually think there are more exclusives announced for the PlayStation VR than there are for any other console so far at this E3. First one is a new psychological horror game called The Inpatient, and I'm actually really excited for that because I get scared easily in VR, and I enjoy getting scared. So, ooh boy, you want to make a new terror game set in VR? I'm up for it. I'm down. That sounds like a lot of fun. Next is some big glowy platformer thing called Star Child. We didn't get a lot of info on it. In fact, I'll be honest with you, I don't even know how that is going to be a VR game because it appears that you're doing it in third person, but maybe when she gets into the giant robot, then it turns into VR, and then the rest of the time you're controlling it normally. Speaking along those same lines is a new game starring a little mouse knight character going on an adventure through the woods called Moss. And I'll be honest with you, when I first saw this, I was like, is this that Mouse Guard game that I've been hearing about so much? No, it's just someone completely 100% ripping off Mouse Guard. However, again, I'm kind of surprised at how they're going to make a VR game that is not set in first person. I don't know how that works exactly. I mean, I know obviously it will be fully around you and you'll fully be immersed in the world, but you're not seeing through the eyes of the character, which to me is kind of the thing that makes VR that much more unique, but you know, alright, cool. The design of this game looks gorgeous. I actually think that it has a lot of potential to be one of the more imaginative games of the year. So yeah, even if this was not on VR, I would actually have my interest piqued at this game. Then it goes into Final Fantasy 15, the Fishing Simulator. I know it has another name, but what? Okay. I put Final Fantasy 15 on my favorite games of the year list last year. But something I didn't tell you guys is that I put it on that list because I really, really, really enjoyed it. But as I was playing it, even when I was really enjoying it, all I could think was, yeah, this game is not that great. This game has multiple flaws. And one of the flaws was how much they expected you to just love fishing. And it was okay. It's not like, you know, the fishing in Sonic Adventures, but I didn't really give a crap about continuously fishing over and over again. This is going to be a game where you just fish over and over again. But I think what the big appeal of this is that so many people fell in love with the characters and they just wanted to hang out with the characters. And this is basically just going to be a game where you get to sit around and crack open a cold one with your boy band Final Fantasy Dude Bro characters. I think that's the thing that most people are going to enjoy about this. Just the idea of being there with those characters. And I can understand that, but for me, if I just wanted to get drunk and fish with a bunch of anime characters, there's a Boston anime convention that I could go to at any time. It's not that hard. So yeah, so far these PlayStation VR games are looking pretty impressive. However, there was one other game announced for the VR, which is the only game that should ever be on the VR because it's the only one you'll ever need. Listen, I'm getting kind of sick of Skyrim just coming back over and over and over and over again and then just giving us new versions of it one after the other. And when it got announced for the Switch, I was like, you know what? The Switch you can take on the go. Skyrim really should be a game that you can take on the go because it is so addictive and you want to play and you can do very big stuff in very short amounts of time, so you can do that while you're on the go. So alright, I can see you bringing it back one more time, put it on the Switch. Screw that noise, I'm sorry Nintendo, but Skyrim just totally stabbed you in the back on this. This is a betrayal. You should have, again, just like Monster Hunter, you should have gotten them to sign some kind of a contract saying you can't put out any other versions of Skyrim for at least 2 years after it comes out on the Switch. Just give people time to come and enjoy playing as Link in the world of Skyrim. Do not do this to us. You will ruin us. We have been putting so many of our hopes on having Skyrim on the Switch. It's coming to the VR. I'm sorry, Switch. I do not care about your version of Skyrim anymore. First person perspective. Fully immersed in the giant world of Skyrim, fighting dragons in first-person VR. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I'm sold. Okay, moving away from the PlayStation VR stuff, we got another trailer for God of War. And again, this is kind of what I'm talking about when I say, if this stuff had come out last year, it would have blown people away. The trailer for this God of War was stunning. I loved it. It says so much. It says way more than the trailer we got last year. But we've kind of already seen it. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of new stuff here. But a year ago, we found out that Kratos now has a beard and he's a dad and he has to go on and train his son and all this stuff. So, yeah, a lot of the stuff that really will have been the emotional reveals about this game, we've kind of already had. But as far as just exploring the world, man, I was sold. I like the God of War games. And when I was a kid, I was really into mythology, and I loved Norse mythology. That was my favorite. So yeah, seeing Kratos going through the world of Norse mythology, man, I'm sold. You don't even need the emotional stuff. There's that moment in which you just see a giant hammer out there, like the size of a mountain, and I went, oh my god, is that Mjolnir? Is that what I think it is? And then there's a moment in which you hear somebody going, I thought you were supposed to be so much more dignified than us. And I was like, that's Loki, that's totally Loki. And I love that he's bringing up that basically Kratos, being a former Greek god, is supposed to be so much more dignified than the Norse gods, because the Norse gods were the gods of Vikings, and the Greek gods were the gods of philosophers. So it's like, oh snap. It is almost like him taking out all the Greek gods was just training for going up against the Norse gods, because the Norse gods don't play. Yeah, okay, you got Ares over there. Pretty much every Norse god is Ares. This is how obsessed I used to be with Norse mythology. At the end of this, when they're on the boat, and you see that giant head rising out and the eye opens up, I went, is that Jormungand? Is that Jormungand? And then it turns out to be the giant snake and it goes, it's the world serpent. I was like, called it. Oh my goodness. Kratos is gonna have to fight and kill a snake so big it wraps around the world. Oh man, the Titans are nothing compared to this. But then the kid says he wants to help us. I love that Kratos was having to tell his son, listen, if you're a warrior, you can have no heart. You cannot be soft. You cannot give mercy. And then someone's like, yeah, but mom always used to say, sometimes people can help you. Sometimes you can trust people. And there's that moment in the trailer in which that like little orc or ghost or whatever it was guy was handing Kratos something. I was like, oh my god, is this gonna be the God of War game that has some heart? I knew there was gonna be heart in that he cares about this kid, which by the way, Kratos is totally dying at the end of this game. I'm just throwing that out there right now. There is no way that you have a character come back for one last job, and he's got a son that he's trying to take over for him, and that character survives this game. Although, what if the kid ends up dying, and Kratos just goes back to being full-on God of War mode because of that? That would be a twist. Don't want it to happen, but it would be a twist. But I love the idea that it's like, oh my god, this kid is... Kratos isn't just teaching this kid how to be a warrior, the kid is teaching Kratos how to be human again. I mentioned that we got the emotional gut punch from last year's trailer. This one did actually give me a little bit more of an emotional gut punch. So I love that when I saw this giant serpent, I was like, he's gonna have to fight it. Oh my god, no, they're gonna be friends. Kratos is gonna ride him like that weird dog at the end of Neverending Story. Wait, there's an end to Neverending Story? That doesn't make sense. Next up, it moves into Detroit Become Human, and this is another one of those where we got the trailer last year, and I was real excited from that trailer last year. But again, it did kind of surprise me. It did give me some new stuff in this trailer, and the new stuff it gave me was that, yeah, forget that trailer last year. Every single thing in this trailer this year was totally new, because in the previous trailer, you were a robot who was a negotiator. You were a hostage negotiator for the police. And I was like, okay, you know what, that's an interesting idea. And you would have to choose what you say to get people out of these hostage situations. And that would lead you down multiple different paths because you could actually fail missions and then continue on the story. So like, you know what, alright, I'm intrigued. Plus it's from the same people who made Until Dawn. Alright, I enjoyed what you could do in that game. So if you can take it even further in this one, I'm down. I think that could be a lot of fun. I'm really intrigued now. This trailer shows you that in the trailer last year, the hostage negotiator was having to rescue people from robots that had gone crazy. In this one, it shows you, yeah, the robots didn't go crazy. They just woke the fudge up. They just realized they were being slaves to human beings. This is a revolt, brother. They are waking up. They are taking to the streets. They are not going to be the slaves of human beings anymore. I was like, where's the hostage negotiator from last year? I was like, did they just scrap everything from what we saw last year? Is this one of those times in which they had an idea and then they came and went, you know, we got far more interesting story to tell. Forget everything in that trailer last year. And then there is a scene in which you see all the revolts and your new protagonist on the news, and then the hostage negotiator from the game last year pops up and he's looking at the TV. I was like, what the heck is going on? Again, did you scrap the game from last year to make this one? But you want to keep a character from that one? Or is the trailer from last year still canon? And we're going to see that hostage negotiator pop up in this one as like dual protagonist? Are you going to get to choose what side of the law you want to be on? Are you going to have to choose, do you want to lead the revolt or be the hostage negotiator who tries to talk all the robots down? Or are you going to be able to play both of them and they each have to come towards some conclusion? Or is it going to be decided on how you play both characters, what ends up happening to both of them? I'm really damn intrigued by this game right now. But this leads us to the big thing that they went out on, in which they said is a PlayStation exclusive, and it's by one of the leading developers in the industry. And I thought, it's that new Death Stranding game. You're talking about Hideo Kojima. And then it starts off and the sun is shining on the city. And I was like, well, it's not Death Stranding. So what is it gonna be? And I start hearing that music kick in. And even though it's not music we have ever heard for this character, it was so in the tone of all the music we hear for that character that I instantly went, oh snap, I know what this is. Kudos to PlayStation on nailing down the new Spider-Man game. Kudos to them on making that an exclusive. I would be ticked if I didn't own a PlayStation because I love Spider-Man. He's my favorite superhero of all time. So I would have to go out and buy one, but that's exactly what they want you to do. So again, smart thinking there, Sony. So we get to see some of the gameplay in this, and it looked to me like there was a little too many quick time events, but at the same time, Spider-Man does so many amazing things, no pun intended, with all of his webbing. Yeah, you kind of have to do it with quick time events. And they did actually come up with some interesting things to do with the quick time events. It's not just hit this button, hit that button. Sometimes it's hit both buttons at the same time. Sometimes it's go back and forth between them really quickly. Sometimes it is move the right stick into a circle so that you can aim and then hit. And I actually enjoyed that one because I was like, oh, you know, that's something I don't see often with quick time events. But then aside from that, the actual gameplay, I thought that looked amazing. All the ways that you can just sneak up on guys and then web them down and do your little takedown attacks. And a lot of people are going to compare this to Batman in the Arkham games, but in all honesty, Spider-Man kind of fights exactly the same way that Batman fought in the Arkham games, just even more agile and with the ability to sense things at a slower rate, so it would make sense if you do some bullet time stuff in here. So it's like, okay, perfect. I'm totally fine with that. Not to mention, in the Batman Arkham games, they gave him spider sense, for God's sakes. They jacked Spider-Man's main fighting thing and used it in the Batman game. I'm totally fine with Sony coming in here and jacking it right back from them. So the gameplay looked really good, but one thing that I was thinking when I heard that there was going to be a new Spider-Man game, aside from, oh my god, thank you that we finally have a new Spider-Man game, and it's not going to be on a mobile device, it's actually going to be on a home console. One thing I was thinking is, what new stuff are you going to do? Because most people know Spider-Man's main rogue gallery, and we've kind of already seen his entire rogue gallery. What are you going to do new? And then when you see him going up against the demons, I was like, oh my god, Mr. Negative is going to be in this game. He's never been in anything before. So, alright, that's pretty darn cool. And you're also talking to Yuri, who is this police captain who Spider-Man has worked with before in the comics. So it's like, alright, she's new into these. She's never been in a game or a movie or a TV show before, so it's alright. Bringing her on in, that's pretty cool. So you are doing some new stuff. And I love that even though he doesn't know who the demons are or who they're working for, implying that this is a new character, they realize that the fans out there know everything else about Spider-Man. They don't need a refresher on his previous Rogues Gallery. So I love that when he picks up the phone with Wilson Fisk, and Wilson Fisk is in the jumpsuit, it's like, they don't need to come in here and go, Wilson Fisk is a respectable man of the community, and oh my goodness, could there be a secret that he's hiding? It's like, no, everybody knows he's the kingpin, everybody knows he's a criminal, Spider-Man has already busted him, he's already in jail. So it's like, alright, don't need any explaining there. I'm glad that they are not treating us with kids' gloves. They are willing to say, we know you guys know this, we're just gonna go right into it. But then he goes, he fights Mr. Negative again. It's a lot of quick time events. However, God, those quick time events look good. Man, that's another one of the reasons why I'm so excited that we're getting a new Spider-Man game. Is just like with Shadow of the Colossus. The previous Spider-Man games were good, but graphics have improved so much since that last Spider-Man game. Holy cow, of course I want to see this happen. Of course I want to see what you can do with a brand new New York skyline and Spider-Man swinging around it. And seeing him having to web up the giant crane as it's falling over, is like, that's what you can do in a PlayStation 4 with a Spider-Man game. So I'm very excited to see that. But he goes up against Mr. Negative, and here's something about Mr. Negative. Mr. Negative has the ability to basically swap people's chi. So he can turn bad guys good, and he can turn good guys evil. And there comes that moment in which he grabs Spider-Man, and you see all that power rising up around him. And my thought was, don't do this. Don't let it be another Spider-Man game where you have to be the villain, where you can go down the darker path. Because we got that kind of in the Ultimate Spider-Man game, which you went back and forth between Spider-Man and Venom. But then there was also a Symbiotes Take Manhattan game. I don't remember what it was called, but nobody remembers that game. But it was also kind of like, you can make decisions in here, and your decisions can lead you down the darker path. What do you want to do? Do you want to be good Spider-Man or bad Spider-Man? I do not want to see another Spider-Man game, especially the first Spider-Man game in a long time, where you end up being the villain for part of the game, or it's like, oh, Spider-Man is brainwashed into being the bad guy. But then, not only the trailer ends with this, but the entire press conference ends with this. It comes on like a Marvel stinger during one of their movies, like after the post-credits scene. It comes in, and everybody is just looking at the helicopter that Spider-Man saved and stopped from crashing, and there's a kid taking a photo of it, and there's another kid who goes, come on, man, come on, Miles, and then Miles turns around. Like, he ain't even looking at his friend, he's looking at the audience like, yeah, you heard right, I'm Miles Morales. Okay, you want to talk surprises? That was a damn good surprise, and it actually got me thinking. I will get into the importance of why Miles Morales was at the end of this in just a second. However, just think about what we saw. Spider-Man gets grabbed and gets sucked into a whole lot of black evil energy by the guy whose power is to turn good guys evil. What if everything that we have seen in this game, every single thing that we have seen in this game so far, with Spider-Man swinging around town, that level that we just saw here, what if that was the tutorial level? What if every single thing we have seen so far was just the opening of the game, and this was all a massive bait and switch, and this is the Miles Morales game? What if Spider-Man gets turned evil early on in this game, and then Miles Morales has to suit up? Because as I said, this game is coming in here, and it's not coming in here and going, oh, well, Peter just discovered his powers, and he has to learn how to use them. No, he's been doing this for a long freaking time. He knows his entire world. But at the same time, I can understand that that's kind of a bad method for a video game, because then you're expecting your audience to also know it as well. You're not doing anything to introduce your audience to this world. So if it then switches after one level over to being the Miles Morales game, you would be able to introduce this entire world all over again to your audience, because Miles doesn't know this world. Miles is just starting out. Miles needs a tutorial level to train him on how to use his webbing. Plus, you want to talk about something that would make a Spider-Man game memorable? A bait and switch like that would be stunning. It would be one of the most jaw-dropping things in any video game. Nobody would see that coming. And somebody replied to me on Twitter, hey, yeah, but you remember when they did that bait and switch in Metal Gear Solid 2 and everybody was pissed? Yeah, but here's the thing. Nobody knew who Raiden was in that game. Nobody knew him, and just some guy who popped in and was like, who the hell is this? I thought I was playing as Snake. People know Miles. People know him, and you would still be playing a Spider-Man character, and it would fit perfectly in this world. And also, hey man, it's not like it could necessarily just be Miles' game. It could go into Miles for a bit, Miles rescues Peter, goes back to Peter for a bit, he needs Miles' help, goes back to Miles for a bit, it goes back and forth. So, hey man, even if it does switch into a Miles game, it's nothing saying that Peter can't be there. But even if it is a complete Miles game, listen man, Peter Parker is my favorite superhero of all time. He's a character that means a lot to me. I hold him in very high regards. I'm kind of protective of the guy. We've gotten him in a lot of stuff, alright? Even I am willing to say, give Miles a game. Step back, let Miles have a moment in the spotlight, alright? He's allowed to be Spider-Man, okay? I love Peter Parker, but if they want to give Miles Morales a video game, let them give Miles Morales a video game. But okay, before I go out, before I wrap all this up, I just want to talk about that fact that the big stinger at the end of all this is Miles Morales. Think about the fact that we're getting Skyrim in VR. We're getting a brand new Shadow of the Colossus. God of War still looks amazing. We're getting all this other stuff. And yet the thing that Sony decided to go out on, the big thing they want everyone to leave with, was Miles. That's what they wanted you to leave on. Kratos staring down the World Eater snake, a giant serpent big enough to devour the planet, staring down on him. He wants our help. Oh my God, what could this possibly mean? That is not what they want you to go out on. They want you to go out on Miles. That's what they want you to go out on. I love that so much. It says so much about Miles Morales. It says that that character has now become popular enough that the general audience is looking forward to him. It says that that character is now well known enough that they want that audience out there to realize it's Miles. They want that audience out there to have him as the big stinger at the end of this. And even if you don't read the Miles book, you know who Miles is. He's become popular enough of a character that that can be the big reveal at the end of not just the Spider-Man trailer, but the entire Sony press conference. It is stunning to me that this character has now gotten that big. But that doesn't even just say things about that character. It says stuff about the comic book industry in general. It says that comic books and video games are now kind of starting to work together, hand in hand. Comic books are no longer kind of just this like fringe thing off to the side. I know a lot of people out there are going to say, well, they're all the Marvel movies and they're all the DC movies. Comic books are a big thing. There's all these TV shows out there. Yeah, people know comic books. No. People know what they have gotten in those movies. People know what they have gotten in those TV shows. Miles Morales, never been in a movie. Never even been mentioned in a movie. Never been on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Never been on any other TV shows aside from one Spider-Man cartoon that is not the most popular Spider-Man cartoon out there and it's getting canceled right now. So he's been on that, but that's pretty much it. And he's never been in any other video games before. He's pretty much just a comic book character. And yet, just being a comic book character, they were like, yeah man, people still know him. That's how big the comic book industry is. You can have stuff just from the comic books and audiences out there are going to know it. And audiences out there are going to be hyped enough for it that we will end our press conference on. That is amazing to me. But alright, as I said, overall, the Sony press conference, they did have the most impressive stuff I have seen so far. I was really blown away by everything I saw. However, this is not one of those clear-cut, did Sony win this year kind of things because, yeah man, there wasn't a lot of new stuff here. What was new was damn good. The new stuff was impressive. But none of the new stuff was blow you away impressive. There's nothing like we have gotten for the past several years in a row. So yeah, I can understand people coming in here and going, man, Sony blew it this year. They didn't blow it. They did have really good stuff in there. I honestly think they had better stuff than any of the other press conferences I have seen so far. They just didn't have newer stuff than what we've seen in the other press conferences so far. So, yeah, so far, I don't know who I would say has won E3 because typically by the point that Xbox and Sony have both had their press conferences, you had a winner. I don't really have a winner yet, so as I said, the Nintendo one is starting in just about half an hour for me. You guys have already seen it, but fingers crossed, Nintendo might have a shot this year. But let me know in the comments down below what you thought about the Sony press conference. Also, let me know on Twitter and Tumblr and Twitch at Professor ThorgE. And thank you guys for tuning in. I am going to have several other episodes this week talking about E3, so make sure that you stay tuned for all those. Thanks again for tuning in, everyone. Come back next time.